Welcome to In Focus. I'm your host, Yesenia Taveras. Rory Koonce Jr. was born prematurely, and he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy at such a young age, but he did not let the odds count against him. He actually let them count for him, and he broke records for power curling, both state, national, and actually world competitions. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, it's amazing. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I think your story really needs to be told, and it'll resonate with a lot of people who are not only in your situation, position in life, but also outside. I think you will be very inspired by others who would find you inspiring. So welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Rory.
Such kind words.
Thanks. So talk to us a little bit about who Rory is for those who don't know anything about you.
Rory is a regular person, just like everybody else. Put my pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. I'm nothing special. I'm a vessel. You know, I was put here by God. So I don't see myself as anything special. I'm just an ordinary guy who's accomplished a lot, which is a blessing. But like I said, I feel that I've been put in this position.
I was also a premature baby, but you came out much sooner than I did, and you were 1 pound, 13 ounces, and at the odds, it's only a 30% chance of living, of surviving.
Yes.
So you were a fighter since birth.
Yes, yes.
And then not only that, your mother always spoke positive affirmation words into your life, into your existence, not only during the process when you were a premature baby, but also when she started seeing some milestones not being fulfilled while you were growing up. And then when she finally went to go to the doctors to see what was going on and they diagnosed you with cerebral palsy, even then she made sure that she spoke life into you.
Absolutely.
Talk to us about what you could remember at such a young age growing up during this process.
There's so much.
This is your mother here.
Yes. Mm-hmm. There's so much to remember. She actually still speaks words of affirmation in life to this day. I'm 31. She's still, you know, my mother, as most mothers. I definitely appreciate and honor her. But, yeah, you know, as far as what I can remember, I actually can remember it all, from having a little oxygen mask as a child and them putting me on breathing and everything. It's funny what your mind remembers and what you recall and what you go back to. But as far as like my relationship with my mother, we were always traveling, always. Doctor's appointments, everything. So it was like her, bags, me, stroller, wheelchair. You know, she made it work.
She did. And was she also a single mother growing up, raising you?
Yes, yes.
Wow, so that speaks of a lot of strength that she had.
Absolutely.
And still has.
Absolutely. You know, she never allowed me to give up at any point, so I don't now. That's pretty much basically what it is. I mean, there's not enough words I could probably say about her that would do it justice.
That's right. I think that's most of us when it comes to mothers.
Yeah.
And not only has your mother been a significant person in your life, you actually have a younger brother too. And one thing that I found interesting for you was that you made sure that after he was born, he would have memories of you walking. Talk to us about this. Like, what made you think outside the box?
It just kind of came to me one day, honestly. We're 10 years and 10 days apart exactly. My birthday is on April 30th. His is on May 10th. So we are extremely close. That's my little buddy.
I see.
I kind of helped raise him a lot, you know, because mom had to work. So we, like I said, we're really close. I guess at the time my thought process was just, you know, I wanted him to see something more than just what it is. And oddly enough, he would crawl around the house just like me anyway. He imitated everything that I did. I remember when he first started walking and he was able to walk, we used to have to tell him all the time, get up and walk. You know, don't crawl like me. Because there would still be situations at home where I would crawl, depending on what was going on. So he would crawl just like me. He would get on my back. He would ride around like, you know, it's my buddy. He was 1 pound 4.5.
Okay.
So he was even smaller than me. He had a heart murmur and all these different things. So I would listen out for him a lot. And things like that. So we're really tight, we're really knit, like we're a really close family.
That's wonderful. I see that you're not only the older brother, but also the protector of your younger brother and your mother.
Oh, most definitely.
And talk to us about, so from a young age to teenage life, how you were able to deal with cerebral palsy. I don't want to say disability because you don't look at it as a disability. You look at it as an ability. So talk to us about that.
Oddly enough, I didn't realize that I was disabled until, because I used to watch wrestling a lot growing up, and I wanted to be a professional wrestler at first. Then that's kind of when the realization set in that, okay, you're disabled, you can't really do that. But as far as my everyday life, like you said, my mother spoke affirmation into me, and she never treated me as such. So I never acted as such. Like, it's something that you physically see, but as far as like mental and limitations and so forth and so on, I never treated myself as such. I never acted like such, because I feel like people in the world do that enough.
Right.
And there's a lot of misconceptions about us. So again, that's why I feel like I was put in this position to kind of break down barriers and break down stereotypes and so forth and so on.
Right. And through your company and all the people that you touch, you also talk about the mental strength that we need not only in life, but also anything sports, weight related that you want to pursue. So talk to us about, when did the world of weightlifting attract you?
When I was 10, that's when I really got like heavy into it. Because I remember watching Arnold, I remember watching Frank Zane, and I remember them being so big and muscular, and that was cool for me, but I never seen anybody like myself. So then it kind of became a thing of, well, there's nobody like me, so how far can I push my own self? What can I do? And after a while, you find another challenge, and then another challenge, and then another one. And then at some point in my life, it became less about me and more about everybody else.
Okay. How do you push through those weights? I mean, it's just so incredible to visually see you at the weight room in your wheelchair actually power curling, when there's so many people who don't have this obstacle and they find excuses to not be able to make it to the gym. So talk to us. I mean, you obviously have to get transportation to get to the gym. Then when you get to the gym, you make sure you not only go, but you complete all your reps, and you're also elevating and improving on yourself. Talk to us about this.
Well, at this point, I actually train at home. I have my own gym and setup, so I can train whenever I want now. So at this point, joining a gym is not something that is needed for me. It was pivotal in a time in my life because I learned so much from people around me, as far as like the sports arena and just different things. So it was pivotal, but at this point, I don't belong to a specific gym.
Okay. But when you were at the gym and you had your trainer actually there and speaking words of affirmation to your life too, in regards to you can do this, take us to that time, that process of your journey.
It was kind of never really like a trainer type of thing. It was just people would see me and people would be in amazement, and as I endeavored into different things.
Okay.
You find you find those certain people. Like when I started powerlifting, my friend Eddie Jensen, who also has cerebral palsy, which I didn't find out till later through our years of conversation. I met him at a gym, which used to be called Body Visions, which is now Retro Fitness.
Oh, yes.
Over there on 40. He would hear about me all the time and how strong I was, and I would hear about him all the time about how strong he was, but we never met. And I was walking down the stairs one day, and he seen me, and he asked me if I needed any help, and then that's how we met, because somebody came along and said, "Oh, this is Eddie, this is the guy I was telling you about." And then Eddie goes, "Oh, okay, you must be Rory." So I feel like God strategically put people in my life at certain times, divine connection to make things happen, but it was never really about a coach. It was about my quest for knowledge and preservation.
Wonderful. And with that came your passion of being consistent and persistent, and you were able to break these state, national, world records. Talk to us about that moment in your life. Like, how did you even make this happen?
That was fun. That was a good time. Again, I owe that to my friend Eddie Jensen, because he said, you should get into this powerlifting thing. You're incredibly strong. Most people happen to say that about me. So I said, okay. So he said, we're gonna figure out what event you can do. And having cerebral palsy, you tend to have balance issues. I'm very fortunate where I don't have a lot of the things that people have, but I do have some things.
Okay.
Doctors are actually confused about me because they're not really sure what to do with me.
Well, it could be your faith.
Right. So I'm kind of a complex case. I remember one time my doctor said, I think about you on the way home because I can't figure it out. You have this, but then you don't have that, but then you have this over here. And so what do we do with you?
And it's amazing that you share that with us, because sometimes doctors tend to go off of textbooks, what they learned in school, what they learned in college and graduate school, and that's what they go off of. And technically with cerebral palsy, it's like a disconnect between the brain and the muscle. But through you, even as a patient, I can only imagine what they see, because there's like no disconnect when it comes to you. Like physically you might see it, but you're lifting weights, you're walking. One may say that you can't walk, you will never walk, but you're walking up steps. Talk to us about that.
It's funny because when I was in elementary school, as a matter of fact, all the way through high school, people used to think I was faking all the time.
Wow.
Because they're like, we've seen you walk. We've seen you get up and walk around this classroom. Like, you walk. Like, stop faking. And I would be like, remember, I'm holding on to things. So people would think that I was faking for the longest time. And I'd have to go, no, I was born this way. This is what it is.
Okay.
But God is so powerful that when I meet people, they don't see that. So I wouldn't say that it's a hard concept for people to get, but it's like it doesn't even matter.
Right. And what did you go through, if you don't mind sharing with us? Anything both positive, negative, growing up in the school system with cerebral palsy. Like, was it hard for you? I'm pretty sure it wasn't hard for you to make friends because of your personality, but share with us like the struggles that one faces, so for those who don't know anyone with cerebral palsy can understand the journey that you go through.
Well, for me, I've always went to a quote-unquote regular school, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
So I would 9 times out of 10 be the only person in the school in a wheelchair. So for kids and even adults, they weren't really educated on how to deal with me.
Okay.
So even though I was an outgoing person, even though I was very smart and I was very driven, sometimes people would have that kind of hands-off approach, or they're not really sure, or people would think that I'm supposed to dress a certain way, because a lot of disabled people wear sweatsuits and all these different things and all that, and I don't, and I didn't, right? So again, it was about breaking down stereotypes and misconceptions.
That's right.
And letting people know that I'm just like they are.
That's amazing. And not only do you break down stereotypes, you like go through the roof with them. You actually have your master's degree. You went ahead with the weightlifting and you became your own. Well, talk to us about that, like how you ended up going to school for this and now how you're training other people.
Well, I have a master's degree in personal training. I'm a certified personal trainer. I'm also a metabolic conditioning specialist. I'm also a sports nutritionist and an herbalist. So my official title is wellness coach, because I kind of
the whole thing
embody everything.
That's right.
For me, it was just a quest just to see. At some point in my life, it became not so much seeing what I can do physically, but now seeing what I can do mentally and seeing what I can do to give back.
Okay.
My mother was a big inspiration when it comes to that, because she wanted me to not just be okay for myself, but to inspire other people if I could. My grandmother, who was like a second mother, who recently passed away, it'll be a year in October.
So sorry to hear
so
that.
We're still dealing with that. But, seeing her in the hospital, because she passed away from cancer,
Okay.
seeing her in the hospital was a horrific experience. But it was also a joyous experience because the last time before she stopped talking, we had like a 6-hour conversation. And I think that's the longest that we've ever talked. We talked about everything. And she told me that she knew that my life was going to go in a different direction. I had just started getting into herbalism, but she told me, I know your life is going to go in a different direction because of your passion for helping people. So now, being an herbalist, I'm actually getting ready to release a product that contains 7 herbs that deals with all the organ systems in the body. There's 11 of them, and it deals with everything from your respiratory to your lymphatic system, everything. The reason for that is because, like I said, she passed away from cancer. And when you break cancer down, you understand that it's just an overgrowing of cells. So if you can find a way to normalize your cells and your hormones, then cancer doesn't exist. So that's what I'm working on at this point. I'm working on making sure people fortify their bodies from the inside out.
And where does your passion come from? I know your grandmother had a significant role, but you do so much more outside of what one would say, you know, Rory, just relax, you're doing too much. But you're not, you're so passionate about this. Where does this come from for you?
Enough. It's never enough. I pray a lot. My faith is strong. I have a personal relationship with God, and when He tells me to go do something, I go and do it. Like I said, I realize that I'm a vessel, right? So He works through me. And when people see me, I want them to see Him, right? I don't want them to see me. I'm just a human. Right. I have flaws, I make mistakes as well. That's why when you introduced me, I said it's such kind words, because I don't think about it.
In that way.
Right.
And not only do you have a master's degree and you broke all these records, you also are an entrepreneur. You started your own company where you are training these people. Like, how did you get into that entrepreneur state of mind?
Because at the time, you see people who are disabled who personal train, but you don't see it enough.
Okay.
And with my knowledge base as an athlete, as just having experiences from different people, I wanted to be able to give back. And I wanted to be able to give back not just from a personal training standpoint, because if we're to be honest, anybody can work out. Especially nowadays, there's apps for literally everything.
There is.
You can, go on your phone, pick a workout out. That's cool, right? But we spend so much time taking care of the outside of our body that we neglect the inside. You can look totally healthy on the outside, but then you can have liver problems. You can have kidney problems. You can have heart problems. And at the end of the day, those are the things that matter. It's about life and longevity. It's not just about the moment.
Yes, like they say, health is wealth.
Right.
And so you do so much in regards to making sure you educate and train people about a healthy lifestyle. But even when I go to the gym, the reps can be so intimidating once you get to that part, that breakthrough they call, that you have to push through. When or how have you been able to build that strength in your mental state of mind when it comes to just not only weightlifting and training others, but just in general? Like, what is your process? How do you do that? So for those who don't know how to do it, may be able to learn from you.
I mean, you have to be determined. You have to look in the mirror and say, okay, this is my situation. This is what I'm dealing with, so what? Because life happens. You didn't ask for it, but it happens. Just like with me having cerebral palsy, I didn't ask for it, but this is what it is. So instead of being upset about it or being down about it and falling victim to it or being depressed about it, why don't I do something to change it? And if I can't physically change that, then maybe I can change people's perceptions. There's always something that you can do. So as far as the gym is concerned, yeah, the reps are hard, the weights are heavy, but that takes years of training, progression, time. When you first get started, just get started. Just get started. You have to make a decision to do it. And if you can't do something one way, find another way to do it. That's the true hallmark of a champion. You have to be able to adapt and find different ways. There's plenty of times where I went to the gym and certain machines are not specifically set up for me.
Okay.
But then in my brain, I'll go, okay, well, it works this way. Like there's a video of me using a seated shoulder shrug machine, and I'm standing up and I'm doing deadlifts and bent over rows on a seated shoulder shrug.
Right.
Because in my brain, I was like, okay, well, I need to work my back. I got stability issues, so regular deadlifts, that's kind of out of the question. How can I make this work? So once you begin to ask yourself, how can I make this work? Eventually, you'll find a solution. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would tell someone who's getting started with weightlifting or anything. Just get started.
And if you could go back 20 years when you were a kid, was there anything you would wish you would have changed or somebody would have told you growing up that could help another kid too?
Not a thing. And it might sound funny when I say that, but I say that because we are our experiences, right? Mm-hmm. So without them, good, bad, or indifferent, we can't become who we are. So that's why I say I wouldn't change a thing. It would be nice to have someone to look at or a blueprint, but we also have to understand that there is no blueprint. There's no blueprint to life in general, so you kind of make your own path. So you just let God lead you, and you do what you do.
And when it comes to dealing with the public and people, everyday people, what could you share with us in regards to what you wish they would know, or do they treat you any differently? Do they look at you in your eyes and talk to you? Like, what are some things that you would like to express?
Most people say that I command respect, so I get it a lot. And sometimes people are intimidated by me because they see this guy and he's so muscular and so big, and people are like, I don't want to mess with him. He looks like he'll rip my arm off or something like that. Like you have no idea how many times I've gotten that. And I'm a really personable guy. I'm a really nice guy. Unless you get on my bad side, but that's everybody, right? Mm-hmm. So I wish that people would just realize that we're people. We're people, just like you. And at the end of the day, it only takes an injury, it only takes a moment for you to be in my position or anybody's position. So we should never take anything for granted. It's like when I was feeding this homeless guy, and it was actually me and my girlfriend. We were going to the Wawa. We were wheeling because we're both in wheelchairs.
Okay.
But it was a nice little cardio for me because it's like 5 miles. Okay. So anyway, it was hot. We were going to the Wawa to get something to eat, and we were coming out, and we seen this homeless guy. So instinctively, we said, well, we can always go get more food, and we gave him all of our food. And as we began to sit there and talk to this man, we realized that he used to be a chef. He used to have a lot of money. He used to live in his mother's house, but his mother died, and they kicked him out of the house, so he lost everything. And that is exactly my point. You never know what situation can bring you to somebody's level or even worse.
Wow, that hit full circle for me, because as we know, homelessness, it affects every single state, every single city. It's a big thing. But as you're mentioning, we are people at the end of the day, and literally everyone, most people are one paycheck away from, could be losing their house,
Absolutely.
Could be losing their car. And it's not until you understand that you could be in that situation, you might not wake up and be that person who's very respectful.
Absolutely. And you should never look down on anybody. There's a difference between a hand up and a handout. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people are looking for a handout.
That's right.
Instead of a hand up. So in regards to homelessness, eventually what I want to do is I want to open up an apartment complex strictly for homeless people. I want to pay your rent for 2 years. You live there 2 years rent free. Because that's that hand up thing we're talking about. Because everybody struggles. I was watching this documentary, and over in Japan, they have homeless people. But the homelessness over there is so different because they have pride. So those homeless people, they won't take anything from you. They don't want anything from you. They just want to be them, and they get their own electricity. They're clean just like everybody else. They just have nowhere to stay.
Right.
So that let me know, and that opened my mind to the fact that it's a mind state. And over here in the States, we look at homeless people like they have a disease or they're beneath us, and that's not what it is, because they're still human at the end of the day, like I said.
And before we leave, Rory, anything that you would like to share in regards to your future and what we can look out for?
At this point, like I said, I'm working on releasing that product. I'm just tightening everything up, getting everything together legal-wise, so we can make sure everything's okay with the FDA and labels and all that kind of things, because you can't say certain things, right? So we're making sure that's good. I will be stepping back on the bodybuilding stage March, either first or second week.
Well, next year.
Of next year for
for why?
For the wheelchair nationals.
Okay.
I'm going after my IFBB pro card. I am the natural Mr. Olympia in another organization, but now I'm finally going over to the IFBB because I want to be the Olympia winner in the IFBB.
Wonderful.
So if I'm able to accomplish that.
Not if, you will. Speak words of affirmation,
I'm sure
right?
I will, because I'm blessed to be able to do most things that I say.
That's right.
I'll be the only one to be able to do both, so that'll be cool. But more so than that, I feel like I owe it to my grandmother to step back on that stage, because my first bodybuilding show, she's the one who did my tan. My grandmother, she was awesome. She was and you know, she was so kind and so patient and so understanding. She was awesome. So, you know, I'm doing it in her memory, because obviously I took some time off to spend some time with my family and all those different things, and then of course that happened, so I ended up taking more time off. Okay. So in the immediate future, these are the things that I'm doing.
Wonderful.
But in the long-term future, I want to open up a holistic training center for disabled athletes, which is going to be the first gym of its kind. And just because it says disabled athletes doesn't mean that everybody can't come. It's all inclusive, but it's going to be everything holistic as well as a gym. It's going to be the first building on earth to be 100% completely ADA compliant. Real ADA compliance, not just what they have up there now, because you know, when you speak of dimensions and things like that, certain things can't be one specific dimension, because we all have different wheelchairs.
That's right.
We all have different abilities as far as our movements and our strength and things like that.
Right.
I remember going to college, and they had the button, you know, so you can open the door.
Right.
It's supposed to swing open. Well, one day, somebody had hit the top of there's a button up there to control that panel.
Okay.
And someone hit it. So I'm fortunate enough where I can just push that door open, go through, handle my business. But one time there was a person in there who was in a power chair who didn't have that ability.
Okay.
And he was in there for about 20 minutes screaming for help. I happened to be walking by. I happened to hear it, and I was able to help him, right? So for me, things like that should never happen. They shouldn't happen. So that's what we're working on
Wonderful.
in the long-term future.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Rory. Thank you for sharing your journey and being that inspiration to not only those who are like you, but also those who are not like you. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. And on behalf of all of us here at Channel 22 WITN, we would like to take this opportunity to say thank you for watching this episode of In Focus. I've been your host, Yesenia Taveras.